I'm expecting that some of you guys may know even more than me, which is cool. I get to learn something from you, which is awesome. But yeah, I'm here to help you just expand your horizon, also guide you towards making an AI project and hopefully giving you some information and as well as expanding your knowledge on this subject matter. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone
Yeah.
on whatever it is you want to build. So awesome. Great to be
That's
here.
awesome. Welcome to AI Camp. To give you a little bit overview, what are we going to cover, right, for this, next 3 weeks? We're going to cover essentially about 3 major pillars, right, for our camp. The first thing is we're going to give you some fundamentals, right? Without fundamentals, you won't have enough skills to accomplish your project. And naturally, the AI project is going to be something where we're going to focus like quite a bit, during this whole camp. To give you some ideas of the projects, right, that we have done for this camp, in this camp, you guys probably see the emotion detector, right? Detecting facial expression, right, from photos, right? You've seen that. But we also have done something around the lines that, for example, detecting anyone who came into a store without a mask. Okay, so that's very, sort of like useful for store owners for them to monitor, if anyone coming to the store without the mask, right? So that is one of the projects that done in the last batch, okay? And that was really, really impressive. The other thing I want to talk about is this thing called a career framework. So many of you are, in high school, right? And the thing about high school is that in a few years, you're going to go to college, right? You're going to have to decide a major, right? And once you decide a major, what happens is that major will set your life in a certain direction. But that's a pretty big decision, right? And when I kind of like recalled my own experiences, which I will talk about a little bit more, during this camp, I decided my major by asking my dad. And I was like, my dad was literally, cooking some dishes. And I was like, hey, Dad, what should I major? And he's like spending maybe 5 seconds thinking about it. I was like, I don't know, maybe computer science. And that's how I decided my major, right? And you can see how that turned out. So I tried that, and then it turns out I don't really, for example, like facing the computer 24/7. But the whole point for us to talk to you about this is for you to basically figure out direction in your life, which I think is pretty important. In terms of academics, you're gonna feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. Okay, we're gonna go pretty fast, right? So, for example, we're gonna learn programming in the first couple of days of this camp, right? Some of you don't have programming experiences, which is okay, right? Some of you had some programming experiences, but what are we gonna do is basically we're gonna go through this awesome language called Python, right? Python is the language of data, right? We're gonna go through that and really learn the inside and out about this language, right? And the key thing here is not, for example, to remember every syntax, okay? But the key thing here is for you to have a tour of this language, but then you will practice it when you, for example, work on your project, okay? And then pandas is basically a data processing library. And then we learn machine learning, okay? So finally, right, we learn, Python, we learn pandas, we're gonna learn machine learning. And that's where we will see how different machine learning algorithms, whether it's like supervised, unsupervised, how they are making decisions. And then we're gonna learn about neural networks. So neural networks is, basically the centerpiece of this technique called deep learning, right? And deep learning is part of the machine learning, okay? So when we learn neural networks, we learn how to train a neural network. We actually, in fact, will build a neural network on our own, okay? That's pretty exciting, yeah. At the same time, when you think about neural network and machine learning, if you don't know, for example, how to assess the performance of these machine learning algorithms, then you don't know where to improve, right? So we'll talk about, for example, accuracy, precision, recall, right? IOU, which is intersection over union, right? And all these, precision recall curves. So these concepts might sound like a little bit scary or foreign to you, but as we go through it, it will become clear. And finally, we're going to go through a little bit about computer vision. Okay, so we're going to learn, for example, all the stuff that we're going to our project, right? How these algorithms inside a project, how it's going to work. The other thing here I wanted to mention, there are basically only one culture item here for you for this whole camp. That is, no question is a stupid question. Okay, and I want to encourage you to ask as many questions as you possibly can. Sounds good, right? That's the deal. We will provide all the experiences, all the knowledge we possibly have to you, right? But in return, I need you to be able to ask questions, okay? And feel free to ask questions. So please ask questions. So fundamentals, as I said, it's about Python, but at the same time, we need to learn a little bit about command lines, right? Because that's an interface to a cloud computer. We're going to provide you a cloud computer. Data skills, pandas, but we're also going to do something really, really fun, data visualization, right? Have you guys seen those COVID-19, those different plots, right? You see how informative that is, right? So in order for us, for example, learn about AI, and AI is really about data, and data is really about how to help people to make decisions. And there's no better thing than, for example, graphics, okay? So we're going to learn about data visualization. Machine learning, finally we get to, a little bit intelligent algorithms. So those guys will become clear, like after those lectures. Neural networks, we're going to talk about intro to deep learning. We're going to talk about convolutional neural networks and various other architectures. We're going to talk about how to train them, okay? So those are exciting topics as well. Finally, computer vision, we're going to talk about object detection and how everything behind YOLO, which is the algorithm, how it works. AI project, which is really about object detection. That is, if you can have your computer to recognize any object, what would you want it to do? So some of the ideas could be identify different dog species. I always try to get my students to do one project, which is identify rockfish species, but I have never really been successful in doing so. Maybe one of the camps, one of the groups here will do it. There are 7 steps on making AI product. And that's essentially the steps we're going to go through in our project. So the first step, okay, determine what you want to build. So you want to, come up with some ideas. We're going to brainstorm some ideas. Some of the sessions I had, the ideas, they're like, they're so funny. Like, for example, like one of the girls, they were like, I just want to determine to see if my garden is dying on me or not. So it's like, it's time for me to go outside and water my plants, right? So that could be one idea. So the idea has to be personal. Okay, personal. That is, you want to do it. Also, it's something where we can get a lot of data for that. And then we're going to collect data, right? Remember, garbage in, garbage out. You don't have good data, you don't have good AI. So we're going to go ahead and collect lots of data. And then real life data, as you will see it, they're not clean. They're not, pretty. You're going to have to basically get rid of, some of the, junky data, or, some data missing. You have to impute it. You have to, come up with a way to balance the data set, right? Things like that. We have to label the data, right? We have to tell, for example, hey, computer, this part of the image, it means happy face. This part of the image, it means sad face, right? We have to do lots of labeling. And then once we have all these data, then we can do the training, okay? And that's where we take all these data and train our neural network, right? So that it can do the prediction. And then we have to evaluate and visualize the results, okay? So, and finally, once we made that AI product, we're actually going to deploy it to a website, meaning we're going to make the front end, we're going to make the back end, we're going to see how the whole thing would work. So throughout this whole process, our job is, to be honest, not really to teach you AI, but it's really teach you how to learn different things. Our job is not for, for example, for us to hold on you and, you're going to stay in the camp forever. Our job is so that you went through the camp, you don't need us anymore. Right? You'd be like, I learned so much from these guys. I felt like I can't learn anything from these guys anymore. That's the place you want to be. So we're going to try to get there. And final step, continue to monitor the performance. So 7 steps building this AI product. So week 1, we'll learn fundamentals and collect data for our project. Learn fundamentals meaning Python. Once you learn Python, okay, now let's actually use Python to collect data. Week 2, we'll learn about machine learning, but that's a time where you should train your model, right? Meaning that you get feed all that data you collected to your model so that your model will perform. 3rd week, well, you don't know exactly what's going on inside your model yet, but that's okay. right? You know some basic understandings about machine learning, right? A classification, you know, for example, but you don't know, for example, what's deep learning. So in third week, we're going to learn about deep learning, computer vision, right? Things like that. And then we're also going to deploy our model. So that's where we basically, you know, take our model, right, and build a website around it. YOLO means you only look once, right? As opposed to a sliding window approach where you look at the images multiple times, right? This is one time. And we know where the objects are. We know their classes. This is called object detection. We're going to learn how it actually do it. YOLO is a model. A model meaning that, you know, you have these neural networks connected in a certain fashion, has all these different weights inside of it, and how to connect it is, you know, pretty much fixed. And the program runs, you know, on these models. But yeah, it's a model. Right now, you know, you probably should start thinking, because we have to define our project, which is what do you want to do if your computer can recognize anything. So career framework, as I said, you know, it's really about, you know, figuring out what to do in life, right? You know, we're going to combine with basically lectures, exercises, and learning by listening to people. So we will invite many guest speakers into the camp. You know, people such as Mike Tan, you know, who's a CEO at Diffbot, where they build basically a huge search engine using machine learning, right? Turning basically whatever in the web into knowledge, right? Really awesome guy, really awesome company. And we learned a whole bunch of, like, you know, how machine learning and AI is being utilized inside his company, right? We also talked to Cameron. So Cameron was running a company that provide AI services to different corporations, including Starbucks and Microsoft. So, you know, it's really interesting to see his perspective of like how companies or different companies adopting these different AI technologies. Yeah, so we'll have some guest speakers also coming into our session and talk to you about data, AI, and just life in general. So how do you make the most out of this camp? I think the first thing here is really just being curious and thoughtful. So, you know, when I'm going through these lectures, one of the things that, you know, you need to do is just like, as I said, you know, ask plenty of questions, right? At the same time, I hope you really, you know, take this question really seriously, which is like, what do you want to do in the future? And I hope, you know, during this camp, you know, we're going to create this AI product together. Remember the 7 steps of creating AI product? Every single step in a company that's actually done by a team, right? So we're going to organize into teams, and you're going to take roles, right, in creating AI products. And I want you to be basically like very curious, not only about the material, but also about yourself, right? Am I excited, you know, for example, working on this? Am I excited being a product manager, right? You know, you wanted to also observe yourself and hopefully use that experience to guide your, you know, future directions. Secondly, you want to work hard and smart. That is, you know, we have lots of things to learn here, right? The camp, you know, even though ends at 3 p.m., but I hope the work doesn't end at 3 p.m. You would actually, you know, try and do more things, you know, like after the camp, right? And finally, we go far as a team, right? And also the good people that I met, meaning like, you know, they're very capable, they're really smart, very experienced. Those people, generally, they're nice people, right? They're willing to extend a helper hand, because guess what? If you extend a helpful hand, you know, then more help will come to your ways, right? So try to help each other. And I guess the final principle is that practice makes perfect. We don't learn things by, you know, giving or listening to lectures, right? We learn things by working on something, struggling, right, and figuring it out, and gradually, you know, we get to our solution. So the reason why we're doing this AI project is also that, you know, provide you opportunities for you to practice. Okay, you will be confused, you will be frustrated, but stay with us. Okay, so it will be fun. It will be a lot of learning. We're going to go through all the way to the end, and something amazing will come out at the end.